South Africa is likely, if we don't change, is likely to end up in that space where you have the super rich living here because we've got the beautiful climate. They can go to Kruger National Park to see animals. They can lock themselves up behind closed doors, but they are here. They're not living.
Gated estates.
You can go to Sandton, and when you are in Sandton, you think you are in
Dubai.
Pockets of Dubai. So that's South Africa for you. Yeah. That's how it would end up. But that can be changed by a leadership that understands how society is changed. And that leadership must focus specifically on making sure that the reservoir of uneducated blacks doesn't grow by investing quite deliberately in the education of black kids so that that future that I'm talking about doesn't come. That will take vision, that will take technical expertise, that will take ethical and moral commitment.
Sanibona, ngaphambi singene kwivideo namuhla, ngithi angithathe lethuba ngibonge isupport nothando nesikhombise lona lingaphezulu kokucabanga kwethu. Siyacela niqhubeke nisupport njalo ngokubuka amavideo ethu, ungakhohlwa ukucomment, ushare, ulike. Siyafisa ukuzwa umbono wakho. Sicela ke singene kwivideo namuhla.
I-13 zika February 2020, uPresident Cyril Ramaphosa kwi-State of the Nation address wathi kuzokwakhiwa i-University of Technology ekuruleni ngoba that's the only city engena university. That was 2020. Namhlanje 2026 abanawo ngisho site la kuzokwakhiwa khona university. Ngiyazi ukuthi ingqondo yethu ifocus kakhulu kuyinto ebenzeke eParliament, sikhuluma ngoSarah Jane Trent nayo yonke lento noPaul Sullivan. Kodwa ngibona ukuthi asenze le video sikhulume khona la kukhulunywa khona ngezemfundo. EParliament bekune debate ebikhona ngoba EFF propose ukuthi akube khona iCommission of Inquiry ezobheka ukuthi kahle kahle inkinga kuphi. Yini le eyinkinga yenza ukuthi youth yase South Africa ibe neglected makuze endabeni zemfundo. Ngoba lokho kuholela ekuthenini kube khona high unemployment rate ephezulu. Siyazi ukuthi la eSouth Africa yonke into ine-commission yakhona. Emveni kweMarikana kwaba khona i-commission. Emveni kweJuly unrest kwaba khona i-commission. Uma kuzoba khona i-BEE kwaba khona i-commission. Yonke into ine-commission. Kwesinye isikhathi ayasiza lama commission ngoba avela nama recommendations. Kwesinye isikhathi kuvele the root cause okuyiyona problem enkulu. Ngakho ke EFF proposal lapha eParliament ukuthi no akube khona iCommission of Inquiry ezobheka ukuthi kahle kahle konakelephi kungani ngoba the more lento ingalungiseki the more youth yase South Africa iaffecteka njengoba youth unemployment iphezulu. Uku-affecteka kwe-youth kusho ukuthi ikusasa alicacile. Ngicela ke ukucapnela le video uzwe i-debate yonke ukuthi kuthiweni eParliament. Ngicela uzwe la.
Thank you, Chair. Commander-in-Chief and President of the EFF, House Chairperson, every year our nation celebrates the successes and pass rates of matric classes. We all applaud the hard work of our learners, our teachers, and families who have dedicated years to reaching this very important milestone. However, House Chairperson, behind this celebration lies a very painful reality. For thousands of learners who successfully passed matric, the next step, which is accessing post-secondary education, remains uncertain, and for that matter, it remains impossible for many of them. Let us look at the numbers. In 2025, last year, over 656,000 learners passed matric. The Department of Higher Education confirmed that our universities will only be able to accommodate approximately 235,000 of them. In our TVET colleges, 170,000. We've debunked the lie of CET colleges because the DDG of the CET branch confirmed that over 78% of the people who enroll in CETs are still pursuing matric. So we cannot proudly count the CETs as post-matric education. It's a fallacy. House Chairperson, this leaves over 224,600 learners who have passed matric last year that this government simply has no plan for. What a shocking and a painful number. After working so hard, they are paraded by this government. President Cyril Ramaphosa himself spoke about them in his SONA, yet he knows that deep down this government has no plan for them. But let's look at the numbers even in 2024. 615,000 learners passed matric. Again, just over 200,000 spaces were declared in our universities. The demographics in the TVET and CET branch did not change, leaving over 218,600 learners who passed matric in 2024 and again did not find space in 2025. In just 2 years, House Chairperson, we are likely to have lost close to 500,000 young people who passed matric. We lost them not because they are lazy. We lost them not because they don't want to go to school. We lose them simply because this government does not plan for them. Our institutions are already operating beyond their limits, resulting in large sums of qualifying young people being turned away. We're not telling you something that we read about in the newspapers. We speak to them every day. We speak to their parents. We speak to their families and their siblings. Their children qualify. They meet all the academic requirements. They've passed matric, but there are no spaces. Don't get us wrong. When we say post-secondary education, we don't just mean universities. We're talking about universities, technical and vocational education, training colleges and centers, and other skills and training institutions. This situation leaves many talented and motivated young people without opportunities to continue their education and contributes to the increasing number of young people who are not in employment, education, or training, the so-called NEET youth, which is already projected to be at 4 million, by the way. Over 4 million young people just sitting at home, no employment, no education, no training. Why? Because this government does not plan for them. So we must really appeal to this House. This situation highlights the need for a comprehensive parliamentary inquiry into the state of post-secondary education in South Africa. Such an inquiry would allow the Parliament of South Africa to thoroughly examine the challenges facing our universities, our TVET colleges, and other skills and training institutions. It will help us to identify the root cause of exclusion and limited capacity, evaluate whether current funding models are sustainable, and assess whether education programs are aligned with the economic needs of our country. But most importantly, it will provide an opportunity to hear from the students, to hear from the academics, the educators, the teachers, the parents, industry leaders, policymakers, and other relevant stakeholders in higher education. By gathering evidence and analyzing the data, Parliament will be better positioned to develop practical solutions that expand access to education and improve outcomes for our young people. House Chairperson, it is time to plan for the future. No member of Parliament must lie and come back next year and act shocked when we come back and face the exact same problem. We now have an opportunity to plan for the coming years. As the highest elected structure, our people, Parliament has a constitutional responsibility to ensure that no child is denied their right to further education and training, that all institutions of the state carry out their constitutional duties to provide education opportunities to all those who need it. We therefore appeal to this Parliament to instruct the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education to pay specific attention to the need to improve and provide oversight on the work done to expand PSET. The committee must draft a time-bound program, consult young people across the country, speak to our institutions, and also engage professionals in the sector. The reopening of specialist colleges, such as teachers' colleges, nursing colleges, agricultural colleges, mining colleges, and perhaps even the need to expand these into other industry-specific training colleges must be central to the discussion. You know, Chair, during the Portfolio Committee meeting on Wednesday, we asked the Minister of Higher Education whether a site has been identified for the university in Ekurhuleni that President Cyril Ramaphosa spoke about in his SONA and many other SONAs before that. We did not get a clear response. Something as simple as a site. What does this mean? There is no plan. It's just empty rhetoric. It's empty promises. The EFF is now giving this Parliament an opportunity to plan. The committee must draft cogent recommendations focused on resolving this crisis for good. In the end, House Chairperson, We want every single young person in this country to be provided with the necessary training that will make them useful members of society and meaningful participants in our economy. So we call on each and every party in this house, everyone who cares about the future of our nation, everyone who cares about the future of young people in South Africa, to support this call by the economic freedom fighters. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. I will now recognize the Honorable Minister of Higher Education and Training.
Thank you very much,
Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chairperson. And I think if if every problem that South Africa faces required a commission of inquiry, this Parliament would outsource its constitutional responsibility instead of exercising them. The economic freedom fighters, the economic freedom fighter is just but one of those political parties whom, when we call for commissions of inquiry or for expert committees to deal with specific issues or for task team, they're usually very dismissive. And I think it's quite interesting that when quite ironic that when Parliament should be regularly exercising its authority and its oversight over the work of the Department of Higher Education and Training and the Ministry, what they want is shortcuts for their consultation. And I think it's probably what the ad hoc committee has given to us. A need for unnecessary ad hoc committee and commissions, which is basically, in our view, very performative. And I think Parliament has the authority and responsibility. And we already know, these numbers and the statistics that Honorable Lonzi is speaking about. So we do not need any further commission of inquiry. What we need is solutions, and that's what we're trying to provide. We're going to provide today. And so if one looks at the history of our post-school education and training system, we now have FAM 26 public universities with 99 sites, 99 campuses, with 50 technical and vocational and training colleges with more than 260 campuses, many of those being new, community education and training colleges, which Honorable Lonzi should further deeply understand what their role is. But we also have the National Skills Fund and Sector Education and Training Authorities, which present a multiplicity of access, particularly for young people who graduate from their grade 12. So universities are not necessarily the be-all, of the pathways for post-school education and training. And yes, Honorable Lonzi acknowledges this, but unfortunately for him, it's for opportunistic reason to try and not just deride the role that community colleges should be playing, but also show how much he does not know about that particular sector which is supposed to be commanding oversight on. And yes, there are rising demands, as Honorable Lonzi has indicated. Each year, more learners complete matric with university or other pathways qualifying results. And this success must be celebrated. But what we must also not forget is that part of what leaks from the basic education system, which is essentially students who come out from grade 10, also becomes the responsibility not just of the post-school education and training sector, but also of finding workplaces and so on and so forth. And so how we've structured the post-school education and training sector is that for those who want to pursue academia, that they go into universities. Those who want to pursue vocational training should go to TVET colleges. And that those who want to go and work can start immediate training through occupational and skills-based training that are linked to industry, most of these being provided by opportunities through the National Skills Fund, together with our sector education and training authorities, including learnerships, including artisan training, and so on and so forth. And these are the multiplicity of the opportunities that are available for the many young people. It is not true that based on the plans that we've made for 2026, we have not been able to go to the extent of accommodating the majority of students who are expecting to find access within the post-school education and training system. But it's not just about what we've done. It's also about what we need to do. And more importantly, about expanding the system, which requires expanded investment. And as I said, yes, we know the nature of the problem, and what is required is intervention in terms of resources, accelerating infrastructure expansion, which includes building new additional lecture halls, laboratories, and workshops, but it also includes expanding student accommodation, so that students, particularly from rural and township communities, can access this institution. And importantly, strengthening digital learning system, which we are, going ahead in ensuring that we direct investments towards digital learning platform. And many of the universities and TVET colleges have provided these opportunities, because the numbers that Honorable Lonzi provides is only as it relates to those who are in contact universities, including UNISA. So there are digital platforms that many of our universities have established, and work is being done with regards to CET and TVET college digital learning platforms, so that we expand access. But this is not just only about investing into opening access, it's also about quality. And one of the major projects for us this year will be to improve in terms of lecturer recruitment, retention, but also professional development. We need lecturers in university lecture halls, in workshops at TVET colleges, and in community colleges who are properly trained and who are able to help us to get the necessary skills that we need as a country. We will be reviewing in the coming year the entire landscape of sector education and training authorities, as indicated by the President, in order to improve governance, strengthen partnerships with industry, and make sure that every training that happens by CETAs, that opportunity is also availed, or we continue to avail that opportunity to young people who qualify from matric, and to move away from the mentality that universities alone will become the home of, our young people. Now, we, I think also importantly, Honorable House Chair, have to strengthen in terms of oversight and accountability, as opposed to putting in place commissions of inquiry. We remain available as the ministry and as the department to engage with and to provide information, but also to discuss on alternatives, that are available, and to strengthen those alternatives that are available for us to make sure that we make the intervention. Since 1994, we have changed the face of the sector. Now, moving forward, and I must confirm, Honorable House Chair, that I've just come out from a meeting, as I committed to Honorable Lonzi when he asked in the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee about the address for the University of Ekurhuleni, that we've just come out of a meeting with the Executive Mayor of Ekurhuleni, and that details relating to what will happen in terms of the University of Ekurhuleni will be announced, not just at our budget speech, but in support of the commitments that the President has made. The problem is not, we know what the problem is. We understand what the problem is. And the solution is not a commission of inquiry. The solution is us collectively mobilizing, resources, ensuring that we redirect resources into this particular intervention. And I think the Minister of Finance pronouncements around redirecting resources towards building a post-school education and training system that is available, that is accessible, that is of quality to the majority of South Africans becomes the way in which we are going to go. We will continue building and strengthening the post-school education and training system that our young people deserve. And we hope that Honorable Lonzi will contribute in helping us finding solutions, because we know what the problem is, and the solution is not a commission of inquiry. Thank you, Honorable House Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. We will now move on to Honorable Msezan.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Ngisukume egameni lomkhondo wesizwe sihlalo ukuqale ngizwelane nabantu abasha abahlele emakhaya, abantu abasha abangayisitholanga ikhala zokufunda ngolonyaka neminyaka eminye endlule, abantu abasha abaselusikisiki Eastern Cape, Sikhukhune, Limpopo, Hartsibande, Mpumalanga, Engoje kaMagojela, KwaZulu Natal. Mhlambe sihlalo.
Honorable Msezan, can you please hold? I think there's a hand. Honorable Low.
Thank you very much, House Chair. I think, House Chair, it was clearly stated that the background on members who are on virtual platform must be very proper and not according to that one. So I don't think that background of Honorable Caesar is allowed in Parliament. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Member. Maybe what we can do, Honorable Sezana, because we don't have a background of a building of Parliament, maybe you can just switch off your mic and then, switch off your video and then you can speak without your video on. Because, yes, it is true that we are not supposed to see anything else other than the virtual of Parliament. Thank you, Honorable Member.
Yeah, House Chairperson, umkhonto wesizwe uyaqhubeka futhi uyaqinisekisa ukuthi njengoba sithunywa ngabantu base-South Africa kakhulukazi abantu abasha, imfundo yamahhala for abafundi abaphuma emakhaya ahlwempu nabafundi be-working class siyayifuna futhi sifuna manje imfundo yamahhala. Mhlawumbe House Chair asimangali ukuthi uMinister wa Higher Education and Training Honorable Manamela othunywe yi-ANC ne-GNU government bayayisaba le commission of inquiry into the state of post-school education. Isizathu ukuthi beyisabe kakhulu ukuthi izoveza kucace ukuthi uhulumeni we-GNU uyahluleka ukusevisa abantu bakithi noma uyahluleka ukusevisa intsha yale country. Kodwa-ke njengomkhonto wesizwe party siyayeseka le motion efakwe i-EFF ukuthi kube ne-inquiry into the post-school education sector, but also isizathu sokuthi siyeseke ukuthi siyazi ukuthi abantu abasha in our country are facing what conditions, and as the numbers that have been admitted by the minister when he started to take the podium waphinda wathi uzokhuluma ngama-solutions, but he said nothing but a bunch of rhetoric that we've heard before and that we'll continue hearing. And the fact that sonke lesikhathi bingakafiki le inquiry esisupportayo njengamanje kusho ukuthi bebesanikeze ithuba njenge-ANC ne-GNU ukuthi bebe nama-solutions kodwa banawo ama-numbers la uminister awa-admitayo ama-numbers abalwe eminyaka emibili kuphela of which are approximately 500,000, but not the previous years, as the numbers that continue to admit students remain at a very low number as it pertains to higher education and training sector. Honorable Chair, let me begin perhaps with a truth that this House is very uncomfortable to admit. When President Zuma introduced, or rather declared, free education and converted NSFAS from a loan into a grant, he opened the doors of universities and colleges to children of the poor. For the first time, a child of a domestic worker could become a doctor, a son of a farm worker could become an engineer. The dreams of a working class were finally within reach. But today, those same doors are quietly closing again. Not by apartheid laws, not by racist legislation, not by a government but by a government that has lost its moral compass. House Chair, let me tell you a small story about Edwintswalo, a young woman from Sharpeville that passed matric with a bachelor's pass. She applied in universities and TVET colleges, but she was rejected, not because she failed, but because there were no spaces. Today, she sits at home with her dreams slowly fading away. Another South African added to the number of young people that are neither in employment, in training, or in education. House Chair, every year, nearly 9,000 learners write matric. More than 6,000 qualify for further study in higher education and training. But sadly, Chair, the universities and TVET colleges can only absorb about 200,000 of these young people into the higher education and training sector. And Chair, these are not just numbers. These are the young people that we continuously engage with year in, year out, and they tell us their cries. The even when the universities and colleges are able to take in these students still face delays in NSFAS allowances, housing insecurities, food insecurity, rising academic pressure, and limited mental health support. Billions are allocated to student funding every year, yet students still go months without allowances. Some are evicted from residencies as we speak today. Some go to class hungry. This is not just poor administration, it is a failure of governance. We therefore, as Umkhonto weSizwe, called for this full parliamentary inquiry into the state of the post-education and training sector. Honorable Chair, our campuses must be safe spaces for learning, yet many students face robbery, assault, gender-based violence, and in and around campuses. Young people aged 18 to 24 remain amongst the most vulnerable victims of violent crime in the country, and yet counseling services and trauma support remain limited. We are expecting to expand access to education without expanding safety and psychosocial support. But the crisis does not end there. Even those who graduate, House Chair, are not guaranteed employment. Many graduates hold degrees but cannot find jobs because our education system is not aligned with the needs of the economy. We are producing graduates faster than we are producing industries. Vocational education is neglected. TVET colleges are treated as secondary institutions rather than the drivers of economic development. Yet every successful economy understands that education must feed into the economy. The economy must absorb education. Countries such as Germany, Finland, amongst others, build strong systems that align education with economic growth, apprenticeships, and strong student support. Honorable House Chair, we must also address the role of the National Youth Development Agency, the institution that was created to empower young people, yet it often operates in isolation from the departments responsible for education and employment. Millions are spent traveling abroad to search for solutions to youth unemployment, while the real work of coordinating youth development at home remains fragmented. The NYDA and the Department of Higher Education and Training serve the same constituency, young people of this country, yet they operate in silos. There is no unified national pipeline linking education to employment. House Chair, if we are serious about the future of this country, we must expand university capacity, strengthen TVET colleges, and build a national apprenticeship program in partnership with industry. We must align education with sectors that will grow the economy, such as infrastructure, technology, manufacturing, and energy. We must strengthen the student support from financial aid to mental health. And we must ensure that youth-serving institutions work together to support the next generation. Because if we fail to educate and empower our young people today, we are preparing a future of anger, frustration, and instability tomorrow. The MK party refuses to remain silent with an entire generation that is absorbed. The future of South Africa cannot be postponed. And in conclusion, House Chair, Umkhonto weSizwe Students Movement, through their campaign of the JG Zuma Students Mandate to Free Education, that continue the standing work of trying to ensure that there is access to TVET colleges, universities, as well as other institutions of the higher education and training sector. They are doing a splendid job in ensuring that they assist students across the country. Our Umkhonto weSizwe Students Movement, we support this motion. Angibonge, House Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. We will now move on to Honorable Christians.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. Every year in South Africa, thousands of young people complete school with hope in their hands and uncertainty in their future. They do what society asks of them. They pass their exams, they apply to institutions, they seek training, skills, and opportunity. But far too often, they arrive at the gates of post-school system only to discover that there is simply not enough space on the other side. Now, South Africa is confronted with a quiet national emergency. The widening gap between the number of young people who need post-school opportunities and the system's real capacity to absorb them. When that gap widens, the country does not only lose graduates, it grows unemployment, frustration, instability, and even despair. So, the issue before this House deserves serious attention. But the real question is not whether we should discuss the post-school system again. The real question is whether the system is building real pathways for young people or simply shifting pressure from one crisis point to the next. Around the world, demand for post-secondary education is growing rapidly. Over the past 2 decades, global participation in tertiary education has expanded dramatically. But the lesson from international systems is not that we must copy wealthier countries. The lesson is much simpler. Countries that successfully expand participation do 2 things at the same time. They expand capacity, they diversify pathways, especially through vocational and professional training, and more importantly, they protect quality and student access. South Africa's policy vision has recognized this for years. Now, the White Paper for Post-School Education and Training sets out an ambitious plan for an expanded integrated system by 2030. But the question for Parliament is straightforward. Are we moving fast enough to meet that vision, or are structural constraints quietly slowing progress? Because the warning lights are flashing. Firstly, funding pressure is colliding directly with expansion goals. National Treasury's estimates of national expenditure show that infrastructure grants to post-school sector have been under increasing pressure in recent years, with allocations to university and TVET infrastructure declining over the medium term. Yet, at the same time, enrollment projections continue to rise from about 1.1 million university students today to roughly 1.2 million projected by 2027. So the unavoidable question, House Chairperson, becomes how do we expand access when the financial foundations of the system are tightening? Student financial aid is therefore not a side issue. It is the bloodstream of access. When NSFAS functions well, opportunity flows. But when NSFAS administration falters, the consequences are immediate. Registration stall, accommodation collapses, academic years begin in uncertainty, and campuses become spaces of frustration rather than opportunity. Not because students are unreasonable, but because systems become unreliable. Third, accommodation has become one of the most serious pressure points in the entire post-school pipeline. Accommodation is not simply a housing issue. It is about student safety, dignity, academic stability, and preventing exploitation in the private accommodation market. And fourth, the system still struggles with coherent pathways between institutions. Too many young people are told to move elsewhere in the system, from universities to TVET, from TVET to community education. And that somewhere else is not always properly resourced or structured to absorb them. In simple terms, members, the system redirects students faster than it expands opportunity. Honourable members, these are not abstract policy debates. They are issues that have already surfaced repeatedly through parliamentary oversight, our portfolio committee engagements, institutional visits, and written submissions to the department. And that is why the focus must remain clear. Parliament's role is not simply to describe the problem. It is to ensure that the Department of Higher Education and Training translate policy commitments into measurable results. And the real test lies in implementation. Key questions now remain. What is the true national absorption rate for grade 12 into universities, TVET colleges, CET institutions, apprenticeships, and workplace learning? Are funding models aligned with the enrollment growth, or are institutions being expected to expand while resources per student decline? What is the real impact of infrastructure grant reductions on laboratories, workshop, maintenance backlogs, and student residences? Are TVET colleges becoming institutions of choice with strong industry partnerships, or institutions of last resort for students with limited alternatives? What is the actual enrollment reality within community education and training centers, and are these institutions equipped to fulfill their intended role? And perhaps the most important question of all, are we expanding access, or are we expanding successful graduates who can and will participate meaningfully in the economy? Honourable House Chairperson, South Africa already has a comprehensive policy framework for post-school education. The challenge is not a lack of policy. The challenge is alignment between ambition and funding, between governance and delivery, between access and student success. If the country is serious about expanding opportunity, several practical priorities must move faster. A clear national capacity expansion plan with realistic provincial targets, a stronger accountability framework for student accommodation standards, a functional articulation system so that progression between CET, TVET, and university becomes a real pathway rather than a theoretical one. And above all, members, administrative reliability in NSFAS. Because access without administrative competence is not access at all. It is a promise that collapses at the gate of our institutions. Honourable members, South Africa cannot continue managing post-school education through annual cycles of crisis. The department and the broader post-school system must ensure that the vision already set out in policy becomes a reality for our young people. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. We will now move on to Honourable Zondo. Honourable Zondo.
Thank you, House Chair. The post-secondary education sector has always been a strategic importance to the IFP. In 1979, the late IFP founder and President Emeritus Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, work in partnership with business sectors, established Mangosuthu University of Technology. This was to expand access to practical, career-oriented education for young people, particularly those disadvantaged background, while strengthening this technical skills base of KwaZulu-Natal and South Africa. This history fact is significant as it underscores that even then, the IFP recognized the critical role of institutions of higher learning in the post-secondary education. To fully grasp the challenges of capacity, one must examine the post-democratic policies governing post-secondary education and training. For example, in 1999, following the transition to democracy, South Africa experienced significant change in its agricultural education landscape with the introduction of the Green Paper of National Agricultural Training Institutions. This policy proposed the transformation of restructuring of agricultural college into agricultural training institutions, with the intention of modernizing the agricultural training and aligning with the country's development needs. However, this process also led to a closure of several institutions. A similar restructuring occurred in the teachers' education sector, where teachers' training colleges were closed or incorporated into universities. Honored House Chairperson, it is a fact that only 2 or 3 universities have been built since the dawn of democracy. This is simply not sustainable for a developing country whose democratic dispensation was founded in the principle of expanding access to opportunities. Access without corresponding expansion in capacity is unsustainable. Indeed, we've seen a witness dynamic in the energy sector where the failure of expanding capacity at ESCOM has resulted in this crisis of load shedding. While there has been a notable growth in the number of TVET colleges, their funding has not kept the pace with the expansion. This shortfall has constrained their capacity and limited their appeal as the preferred pathway for students. Honourable Chairperson,
These are the foundational challenges that face the post-secondary education sector. It will have served little purpose to establish separate inquiry when these challenges are already well known. The Portfolio Committee of Higher Education possesses the necessary legislative power to obtain information on absorption capacity and hold the department accountable. In a period of controlled budget, it will be neither practical nor economically prudent to duplicate the work of the committee, whose mandate is already clearly defined. Our rejection of an inquiry does not imply that there is no problem. Years after years, thousands of students are turned away because of they lack the capacity to absorb them. Many qualified learners remain at home due to a limited space. Therefore, Honourable House Chairperson, the current task of the Portfolio Committee, together with all political parties, civil society, learners, students, and other stakeholders, is to hold government accountable to expand access to by building more institutions of higher education, complemented by the expanded student accommodation, given the persistence and pressing accommodation crisis in South Africa. I think kufanele sikubeke kube sobala mphathi sihlalo ukuthi uhulumeni kufanele akubeke phambili ukwakhiwa kwezakhiwo ezintsha no-expanda lezi ekhona ukuze ikwazi uku-accommodate ngobuningi abafundi nomthamo ophumayo kwa-matric. Kodwa lokhu akusho ukuthi kufanele sikhande ama-inquiry amaningi nge-information esivele sesinayo okufanele ngabe sifaka ama-solution azokwenza ukuthi abantu bakithi bekwazi ukuthola iy'khala zemfundo ephakeme. Siyakuncoma kakhulu futhi-ke ney'phakamiso zokwenza ukuthi imfundo eyokufunda emoyeni online kube yona esiyibeke ekhulwini njenge-medium term plan noma medium term solution to the crisis that we have while we are building ama-universities amasha and expanding ama-TVET and aligning ama-TVET colleges with the job market and the demand. Ngalokho siyi-IFP sithi cha lokhu ku-inquiry asihambisani nakho kodwa i-Portfolio Committee ayenza umsebenzi wayo futhi eyunikezwa umthetho sisekelo wakuleli zwe. Ngiyathokoza kakhulu.
Honorable Member, okay, thank you very much. Your time had expired. We'll now move on to Honorable Hendricks.
Thanks, Honorable Chair, Honorable Members. Chair, we need to recognize, if we go back to the SONA when His Excellency, the President, Cyril Ramaphosa spoke on education, how critical it is. We have a fundamental dishonesty in our system. The Department of Basic Education celebrates a bachelor pass as if it's a ticket to success, but the Department of Higher Education admitted that this pass does not guarantee admission to university. We are selling our children a dream only to have them wake up to a nightmare in January when they are sleeping on pavements outside universities begging for a space. The Patriotic Alliance believes that the post-school education is a public good, not a luxury for the academic elite. The data shows that we have a system designed for a few, not for the masses. The National Development Plan envisioned 2.5 million students in TVET colleges by 2030. Here we are on the doorstep of 2030, and we have barely 527,000. Why? Because we have treated TVET college like a stepchildren of our education family. They are underfunded, undersupplied, and stigmatized. We must ensure that in the rush to fill universities, we do not forget the South African child from Atteridgeville, from Salisbury, from the Cape Flats. The Patriotic Alliance has been consistent. Our resources are scarce and they must prioritize our own. When we have capacity crisis, we cannot import demand. We need in order to is accessing our post-school. A realistic conversation about passes. The Department of Basic Education and Higher Education must align. It's cruel to give a child a bachelor's pass knowing full well there is no seat for them. We must be honest with parents and learners about the alternative pathways from grade 9 onwards. But let us be warned, an inquiry is merely an action of expensive delay. We need timelines, we need accountability, and we need a guarantee that at the end of this process, the doors of learning and culture will finally open to the many, not the few. With South African citizens as a primary beneficiary, the patriotic stand ready to fight for the future. But with policies already in place, we only need to implement. I don't think it's a problem of inquiry on top of inquiry. With that said, Chairperson, the Patriotic Alliance does not support this inquiry. Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Member. We move to the next Honorable Member, which is Honorable Boshoff.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I think one should look at this basic problem in the South African society in a non-partisan way, and just to look at what is going on the ground. South Africa has two simultaneous crises, which is quite surprisingly because on the one hand we have an unemployment crisis, and on the other hand we have a crisis of a skill shortage. Now, if we have an education system which is well funded, basic education as well as higher education, and we have unemployment but also a skill shortage, then clearly we have an educational problem, not so much a monetary problem. Now, that is what has to be tackled in a very short time. Now, the thing is that high schools in South Africa, which you get in every village and in every suburb and in every township, they provide a qualification which is not supposed to prepare the student for the world of work. The high schools prepare the learner for further study, but the further study opportunities do not exist. So most of our young people have to enter the labor market with a qualification which is not meant for entering the labor market. Now, this problem can be mitigated by giving more prominence to vocational subjects such as agricultural technology, computer application technology, which is these days basically like basic literacy, hospitality studies, many of these subjects, which are normal school subjects, but they require some workshops or specific equipment in order to present those subjects. And of course, staff with the ability to teach the children what they have to learn for those. Then there's also the NCV, the National Certificate Vocational, which is not presented by schools, but only by TVET colleges. Now, it might be an idea to allow schools to also present the National Certificate Vocational, because that will enhance the learners who exit the schools to really make a success in the workplace. We might even have to pay teachers something like a danger pay, but not a danger, but an inducement to go to schools where this is the most necessary. Because the irony of the whole situation is that the schools where this is the biggest problem only present subjects like history and geography, which are all very good subjects, which I really love, but in itself do not prepare learners for the workplace. Now, according to previous research by the late Mike Schuster, grade 11 on its own is about the worst qualification from an employment perspective. And that is because that is, of course, the students who were removed out of the system in order not to lower the pass rate. But grade 12 is the second worst. And it's better for a learner to have grade 9 and the technical or an N qualification out of an employment perspective.
Honorable Bishop, your time has expired.
Oh, my phone says it's still 50 seconds, but I'll stop. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Member. We now move to Honorable Letlape.
Thank you, Chair. ActionSA agrees there is a need to comprehensively examine the state of post-secondary education in South Africa. But we believe that that is not enough. One of the major problems that we have is that everything is fragmented. We would like to see one education ministry from cradle to grave so that there is proper planning. We'd also want to see an education system that leads to employment. The artificial discussion about academic or vocational stream is quite academic. because even those that come from academic streams can't find opportunities for jobs. Would like to have a frank and open discussion about the corrosion of corruption on job opportunities. And as long as we do not look at this broadly and widely, it'll just become another talk shop. We cannot continue in the same vein. One of the challenges that we see is the fact that we are emphasizing on fighting the past instead of creating a collective future where all of us matter. Some of us in health have seen training colleges destroyed on an ideological basis. We now have a poorer quality of nurses that are being produced, for example. We have a challenge in terms of the values that are being upheld. We have rampant commercialization, educational institutions that are not fit for purpose, universities that have abdicated their responsibility to accommodate undergraduates on campus. We've created a business on accommodation of students. We need to move from these artificial edifices to create an education system that serves all of us. We need to acknowledge that there are things that we have destroyed that we need to bring back. That is why we now produce 15% of our grade 3 are basically illiterate. And 80% of those above struggle with meaning. We have become, stuck on language policies when we create people that effectively might have a certificate but are frankly unemployable. We need to have an education and training system that focuses on employability, that produces students that have a thirst for responsibility, that are highly ethical, that whatever career they choose, they will take pride in it, they'll know how to do it properly. The separateness needs to be destroyed, Chair. When we create a funding system like NSFAS, it should be for all citizens. It should not discriminate between the poor and the rich, the black or white. That is how we build a country that will be based on the constitution that we have, that would be united. We spend too much resources on administration and bureaucracy than on improving the lives of our people. So ActionSA would like to see a more comprehensive discussion where what we waste on basic and higher education and too much government is part of where we should begin. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. ACDP, there's no name that was provided. Is there anyone from ACDP? UDM? Anyone from UDM? Rise? Bosa? Honorable Zungula?
Sorry, there is somebody from Rise. I battle to unmute, House Chair.
Okay, all right. You can continue, Honorable Zivi.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Firstly, let me thank the Honorable Lonzi for sponsoring this debate on a very critical issue affecting hundreds of thousands of matriculants and will affect millions over the next few years. This is a situation that we cannot continue to pretend does not exist. It does. It affects young people in terms of holding up their futures and damages them psychologically. We also understand this to be a parliamentary inquiry, not a judicial one. Parliament is empowered to hold such inquiries. And so let me say this up front, that we support the call for a parliamentary inquiry. This is not because we have no trust in the Minister of Higher Education and Training, but this matter touches on other imperatives that affect all South Africans and will affect them in future. For example, we are in a budgeting cycle right now. It will be business as usual without major adjustments to expenditure. And yet we want to solve big problems without prioritizing. Often Parliament is a culprit in this practice. But but Parliament has a responsibility to develop a deeper understanding of the matters over which it legislates and allocates funds. Parliament needs to understand what the expected pipeline of matriculants over the next decade is versus a pipeline of student vacancies available right across the board. As I speak here, there are thousands of kids who have secured points needed to enter their respective undergraduate programs and yet are sitting at home because there's not enough space. Next year, there will be more. Some have ended up enrolling for programs they never wanted to pursue careers they will hate. Some were told by universities that they have not been accepted less than 24 hours after learning they passed matric, reducing them to tears. The fact is that as a country, we never invested in the university pipeline needed to accommodate a growing matric population. As the ultimate dispenser of funds, Parliament needs to gather such information as may be necessary to make a resolution that in the end may actually empower the Minister of Higher Education to do more than what he is able to do now. This will also be an opportunity to determine whether we have enough highly qualified lecturers in the academic programs that will help us to build a country and economy of the future. My suspicion is that as a country, we do not actually know. Finding this out and taking steps to ensure that such challenges are understood and solved cannot possibly be a bad thing. Surely not. Therefore, Parliament must do its work in support of our higher education, innovation, and economic modernization objectives. Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Member. We now move to Bosa. There's no one from Bosa. Honorable Zungula.
Thank you, House Chair. Mandikubulise, ndibulise onke amalungu akhoyo. Qho ngoJanuwari kuba khona abantwana abaninzi abama kwi-universities and nabazali babo bayatravelisha besiya kwii-provinces ngee-provinces bephethe ii-documents ezithile ngethemba ukuba abantwana babo bazofumana isikolo. Uphinde ufumane ii-students ezi-desperate zizama ukungena ezikolweni zicengana nee-administrators zide ziproteste kuba zifuna iingcango zezulu zesikolo zivulwe. Loo nto yenza ukuba urhulumente arisponde ngendlela engenabuntu, arisponde ngendlela engafanelekanga. Sibonile apha ekuqaleni konyaka xa ii-students e-NMU eGqeberha zidutyulwa ngenxa koba zifuna ufumana isikolo. Sibonile apha eKapa xa ii-students zase-CPUT xa zifuna izikolo neendawo zokulala neendawo zokuhlala nabo bayahlukunyezwa ngulo rhulumente. Le ntlekele ayenzeki ukuba ngenxa yokuba abantwana abanayo i-ambition, yenzeka because urhulumente lona wohlulekile ukwakha i-education system ekwaziyo accommodate zonke ii-students ezifuna ukufunda. Loo nto iyabonakala xa sifumana ii-results ka-matric apho over 1 million yabafundi bangakwazi ukufumana izikolo kwii-universities bonke ngokupheleleyo abo bapasileyo. Abanye bathi sebepasile bekwalifaya bangakwazi ungena ngenxa yokuba kungekho space kwezi institutions. C-ATM kudala sayithetha le nto and xa umntu enokhangela ngela xesha le-fees must fall yayibonakala ukuba intlekele iyeza kodwa urhulumente akaka-act. Now sithi thina siyi-ATM mayibekho i-inquiry enziwa ipalamente ezokwazi ukhangela ukuba yintoni na enokwenziwa enoqinisekisa ukuba yonke le ntlekele iyakwazi ukulungiswa. Sifuna ukumlungisa uminister ukuba lena ayo-Judicial Commission of Inquiry, kodwa yi-inquiry efuneka yenziwe yipalamente using ii-processes zasepalamente ukuze ikwazi ufumana isisombululo. Ngamanye amazwe, it is not to outsource umsebenzi wepalamente kodwa kukusebenzisa imeans zasepalamente ukufumana isisombululo. Siyabulela kakhulu.
Thank you very much. Honorable Low.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
House Chairperson, the African National Congress rise with clarity and conviction to reject the proposal for a parliamentary inquiry into the state of the post-school education and training sector. This proposal is misplaced, unnecessary, and politically opportunistic. South Africa already has constitutionally entrenched oversight mechanisms that are functioning and effective. The Portfolio Committee on Higher Education, as capably led by the Honorable Litsie, exercises continuous parliamentary scrutiny. The Auditor General of South Africa conducts independent audits and reports to this House without fear of favor. The Department of Higher Education and Training and its entities appear regularly before Parliament to account. To now establish a parallel parliamentary inquiry will duplicate these processes, consume limited resources, and delay the urgent work of implementation. Oversight already exists. What is required is decisive governance and accelerated reform. The ANC position is rooted in policy clarity since the adoption of free higher education for poor and working class students. Our movement has constantly advanced access as pillars of social justice and economic transformation. Through the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, hundreds of thousands of young people who were historically excluded have entered universities and TVET colleges. That is just not rhetoric. It is a tangible transformation. But we are equally clear that NSFAS must be stabilized. It must continue to be stabilized. They must continue to put systems in place. Governance weaknesses, delayed disbursements, and operational inefficiencies undermine public confidence and harm the very students we seek to empower. The solution, however, is not theoretical inquiries. It is organizational renewal, professional administration, strengthened internal controls, consequence management, and enhanced digital systems that ensure transparent, real-time accountability. Honorable House Chair, the sustainability of the PSET system must also be confronted honestly. South Africa operates within the fiscal constraints, yet the demand for higher education to continue to grow. The ANC therefore supports exploring innovative funding mechanisms that do not abandon the poor but strengthen the system. Public-private mechanisms that do not abandon the poor but strengthen the system. Public-private partnerships can leverage industry resources. Sector education and training levies can be aligned more strategically with national development plan priorities. Progressive graduate contribution frameworks designed to protect low-income earners can ensure that those who benefit from higher education contribute fairly once they are economically active. These are not neoliberal concessions. They are practical instruments to secure long-term stability while safeguarding poor access. Honourable members, the balance between tuition fees and state subsidies requires careful calibration. Universities and TVET colleges must remain financially viable institutions of excellence, capable of delivering quality education, research, and innovation. At the same time, free education for the poor and working class remains non-negotiable. The comprehensive student funding model that was decisive intervention, yet acknowledge that so-called missing middle families who earn above NSFAS thresholds but cannot afford rising tuition continue to face hardship. The answer lies in refining the funding framework, expanding blended financial support options, and addressing the structural drivers of student debt. We must protect institutional stability without shifting the burden onto vulnerable households. Transformation also demands that we confront historical inequalities in funding allocation. Institutions that we deliberately underfunded under apartheid cannot be expected to compete on equal footing without targeted support. The ANC remains committed to equitable funding formulas that uplift historically disadvantaged institutions, invest in infrastructure, expand research capacity, and promote demographic and geographic equity. Transformation is not abstract slogan. It must be reflected in budgets, infrastructure development, and measurable outcomes. We further emphasize the importance of strengthening financial oversight and governance across universities and TVET colleges. Council must exercise fiduciary responsibility with discipline and integrity. Procurement systems must be transparent. Audit outcomes must improve constantly. Where there is mismanagement or corruption, decisive action must follow. Public funds are scarce resources entrusted to institutions to serve the people of South Africa, not private interests. In addition, the ANC recognizes that modern governance requires digital transformation, enhanced IT systems, integrated funding database, automated reconciliation processes, and transparent reporting platforms are essential to prevent abuse and eliminate opportunities for manipulation. Visible organizational renewal, particularly within the NSFAS and related entities, will rebuild trust among students, society, parents, and the broader public. Transparency is not merely administrative, it is political. It signals the democratic institutions that are responsive, accountable, and capable of self-correction. Honorable Chairperson, members, the call for the parliamentary inquiry is not about strengthening oversight, it's about creating spectacles. The ANC will not be distracted by duplicative exercises when the real task is delivery. We stand for stable, transformed, and sustainable post-school education system that advances inclusive growth, deepens economic participation, and equips our youth with the skills necessary to build the nation. Our responsibility is to govern, to reform when necessary, to protect the poor, and to drive transformation forward with disciplined agency. This is the mandate we carry. We're very much clear, and this is the mandate we will fulfill as the people have entrusted us. Malibongwe.
Thank you very much, Honorable Law. I didn't hear that you had ended because your network was not. But we'll move on to the next speaker, Al-Jama. Any member from Al-Jama? NCC?
Chair, Al-Jama, AI can't help him on this one.
Honorable Maud, please. UAT? Good. Honorable Katau? Honorable Katau? From DA?
Oh, you mean Khachau, Chairperson. Sorry, I thought
Oh, sorry.
a different member,
Yes.
sorry. Oh,
No, my apologies. Yes, you may continue.
Hamudula Stulo, House Chairperson, we do not need a mini Madlanga commission or an ad hoc committee 2.0 to know what is wrong with the PSET sector and how to fix it. What we need is a minister with the capacity and will to act. We know that this department is filled with passengers who are either lazy to do their jobs or simply do not know how to do their jobs. And the solution here is simple: review performance and fire useless employees. We know that South Africa does not have enough student accommodation beds and physical teaching and learning spaces to accommodate the demand for access to institutions of higher learning. We also know that we neither have the money nor do we have the luxury of time to deliver classrooms and beds immediately. And so what is needed as an immediate solution to absorbing over 100,000 young people who are locked out of doors to education is twofold. A, public-private partnerships with credible private tertiary institutions to alleviate pressure from public institutions. And B, in line with the fourth industrial revolution, a more aggressive introduction of digital and hybrid teaching for any and all academic offerings that do not require daily practical content applications. House Chairperson, we do not need a mini Madlanga commission or an ad hoc committee 2.0 to know that this department has incurred 600 million rands worth of irregular expenditure and 125 million rands worth of fruitless and wasteful expenditure in this past financial year alone. We already know this. We also already know that for years the SETAs have only performed one duty: lining the pockets of ANC and SACP cadres instead of maximizing skills development and training in critical job-creating industries for this republic's youth. This is proven by how former Minister Nkabane sought to deploy ANC cadres across the SETA boards. Yes, the Democratic Alliance successfully fought against this, and we are happy that Honorable Nkabane was evicted from her office as minister. Fellow Minister Manamela also came and climbed onto the same bandwagon. SETAs are not maximizing skills development and training in critical job-creating industries for this republic's youth. We know this because the department itself has no clue who has been trained for what, where, when, by who, and at what cost. House Chairperson, we have a whole generation of young people sitting at home with qualifications that do not translate to jobs. Some graduated in their 20s and are now in their 40s without ever having earned an opportunity for a job. We have a generation of young women who are forced to accept sex for food, clothes, and shelter as a lifestyle, trapped in abusive and loveless relationships out of fear of hunger and poverty. All while this government runs a 20 billion rands annual bill on 21 SETA gravy trains. And so not only do SETAs not align to government's goal of skills development, the work they do neither translates to the creation of jobs for young people, nor do they contribute to economic growth. Chair, SETAs do not benefit the Republic. SETAs do not benefit young people, and SETAs are a waste of money. And see, the solution here is very simple. Scrap SETAs and strengthen technical and vocational learning. House Chairperson, the Skills Development Act of 97 of 1998 already empowers Minister Manamela with the ability to dissolve SETAs. What is missing is action. And so the question here then is, who will Minister Manamela choose? Corrupt cadres milking the state or the people? And the choice for any honest politician is simply and always the people. Through you, House Chair, allow me to say, Minister Manamela, I dare you to be brave. Off-board ANC and SACP cadres of the 20 billion rands 21 SETA gravy trains. Dissolve SETAs and strengthen TVETs. Because technical and vocational education and training colleges already carry the mandate to provide occupational and practical skills training for young people. So SETAs are an unnecessary and wasteful 20 billion rands annual duplication. We do not need them. And so, Minister Manamela, here you have an opportunity to show our nation that you care about its future and that you care about good quality skills development. Show us that a well-structured higher education system matters more to you than aiding the corruption of ANC and SACP cadres. Scrap SETAs and fill TVET vacancies. Scrap SETAs and develop plus maintain TVET infrastructure. Scrap SETAs and upgrade TVET curriculum. Scrap SETAs and strengthen post-TVET job placements. Focus and show up for the Republic. The solution is simple. Scrap SETAs. See, Honorable Lozi, this is easy. We do not need a mini Madlanga commission or an ad hoc committee 2.0 to get to work and fix what is wrong in the system. The DA not only knows what was wrong with the PSET sector, but we also know how to fix the problem. The issue here is that we have the wrong captain chairing this ministry, the wrong captain leading this department. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. We now move to Honorable Litsia.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
No, thank you very much, House Chair. Good afternoon to everybody. I think we ought to start at the beginning and indicate that there is no need for a parliamentary inquiry. In fact, if you simply go to understand what is the purpose of a commission of inquiry, and this is on a desktop analysis, is going to tell you that it is to investigate a problem, it is to find facts around that problem, and is to provide recommendations on how to resolve that problem. So where are we now? Honorable Lenzi says, we have a problem. What is the problem that he brings to the table? He says it's access. He brings in numbers, says these are the numbers that do. So we do have, according to what he has provided, the numbers. Or we have the problem and we have the numbers. What must be, what is it that we need to do is to provide solutions and recommendations. And I don't think you'll then need a commission of inquiry to bring solutions. In fact, Section 55, Honorable Loans of the Constitution of South Africa empowers the portfolio committee or empowers Parliament through portfolio committees to do oversight over public entities, organs of states, ministry and department. So what we have here is that you are empowered by the Constitution, and all these political parties who've stood there and said they support the Commission of Inquiry. In simple terms, this is what they are saying. They are saying to the people of South Africa, we know what is the problem. You have elected us to provide solutions. We can't provide solutions. We want to come to you. We want to come hear from you what is the problem and how to get solutions. But the Constitution already gives them that particular right. It says, go do oversight. And this is what the portfolio committee has been doing all along. What is the problem? The problem is the department that is non-responsive. So we know the problem around this thing. And we have this committee, by the way, the chairperson of the committee, mandated by the committee, wrote to the president because the committee said, Chair, we are struggling to get X, Y, and Z. Let's write to the president. We have written to the president and said, President, we've got a problem in the department, and here's the problem. Please help us solve this problem, because this problem can only be solved by yourself. The president at SONA responded in part. He says, and I want to quote him verbatim, he says, I have mandated the Minister of Higher Education and the Minister of Finance to resolve this problem of access. By what? Responding to the issue of a new university, responding to building more campuses. And there's a misconception that accessibility only means being able to get to university. Accessibility also includes student housing, because those of us who come from poor backgrounds, we know that it is extremely difficult to study in an RDP house with your siblings and cousins when you are 9 in the house, and that house has got 2 bedrooms. So if I stay at home and I go to a university, I will struggle to pass over and above the traveling. And that is why the president responded and said, the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Higher Education must sit down immediately and resolve this particular problem. So the president has responded in part to what we as this committee would have written to him about the non-responsiveness of the Department of Higher Education and Training. So I don't think we've diagnosed the problem correctly. The problem is access. So what must happen from now on? We will, in the next coming few weeks, be convening a meeting to get feedback from the Minister of Higher Education to brief us and the nation about how will he be leading this department and all its institutions in increasing access as mandated to by the president. Between himself and the Minister of Finance, would want to know how many students will be leaving basic education from next year, maybe in the next 5 years. And then how he must give us a response on how will this department that he leads be responding to those numbers. Again, we want to claim, to put it on record, that this is a focused effective oversight and not popularism. Honorable Khachau says the response is to close sitters, scrap sitters, do this and that. We don't agree because, Honorable Khachau, when we do our own oversight, just like when we went to the university, we went to Limpopo, we went to Zanin, and so how an effective sitter system with NSF system works. We went to, on a Friday, we went to young people are being, we left that place where we left that space, we went to an institution where a young lady runs a very effective production training, for audio and video. We saw they've actually, those are the people who have just produced a Mojaji film, a working, we've done, so we've went to Gauteng, where Gold Rent and all of that have trained young people. We've went to KwaZulu-Natal, where we've seen a sitter system. Isolated incidences of corrupt individuals who you and I have a responsibility to go and open cases against, must not ride on populism and claim sitters have not worked. In fact, sitters in the past 2 years alone, they've produced more artisans than our TVET colleges. This is information that these sitters would have given us ourselves. Members, the challenges in the sectors are not failures of vision, but they're failures of corruption, administrative weaknesses, mismanagement, delayed disbursements, and perplexing decision-making, and weak accountability that is there at times eroded public confidence and hindered student access. These operational failings must be addressed decisively through strengthened leadership, transparent governance, and consequence management, not through some inquiry that duplicates existing oversight mechanisms. Resources must be instead, those who watch the ad hoc committee, when you bring in people in parliament, you must pay for their flights, you must pay for where they stay, and then we want to say that we don't have enough resources, but we want to duplicate what the portfolio committee. You have legislation that empowers you to do this thing. Section 55, Section 56, Section 227 of the, thank you very much. The ANC vehemently rejects a duplication of what already they have.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member.
Malibongwe.
Honorable members, I will now allow the sponsor of the debate to conclude the debate. Honorable Lonzi, in your opening of the debate, you saved 2 minutes, so you will now have 7 minutes to conclude the debate. Over to you, Honorable Lonzi.
You know, Chairperson, what is so painful is that irrespective of this rhetoric that we're hearing from the ANC, the DA, and many other members of parliament who are rejecting this inquiry, as we sit here today, there are over 224,000 young people that passed matric but have not been able to find space in post-secondary education. There is a child in the Eastern Cape who is sitting at home, who received a bachelor's pass, who qualifies to go to university, who qualifies to go to a TVET college. But because this government has failed to create space in post-secondary education, that child is sitting at home with no hopes of any prospects of success. There is a child in Limpopo, there is a child in Gauteng, there is a child in the Western Cape whose mother has to come each and every day and speak to that child crying, saying, Mama, I have passed. I finished matric. Last year, I was being celebrated by my friends. Even the president of South Africa was celebrating me in his sauna. But because there is no space, I'm told that I can't go to university. I can't go to a TVET college. And all of these emails that these young people are getting, they are not saying to them that they don't qualify. They are not saying to them that they failed. They are saying to them, we simply don't have space. And I don't understand why the minister and other members of parliament keep mentioning commission of inquiry. This is not a commission of inquiry. I mean, a whole minister should know a difference between a commission of inquiry and a parliamentary inquiry. A commission of inquiry, by the way, is an initiative of a state president. It's not a parliamentary process. Someone who sits in cabinet should know this. But if you've got ministers that don't read and don't understand the Constitution of South Africa and the different acts and rules and statutes that guide parliament, you're going to have a minister who comes here and says, we don't want a commission. Nobody called for a commission. We're asking for a parliamentary inquiry in line with Section 55 and 56 to give and strengthen the portfolio committee. We didn't ask for an ad hoc committee, Honorable Kaukau and Honorable Christians. We're not asking for a parallel structure. I don't know why you keep referring to this thing as a parallel structure. We're saying strengthen within the parliamentary rules the current portfolio committee on higher education. It's the one that's going to be doing this process. Give it timelines. Set up terms of reference. Give it a specified focus to say, how do we resolve this problem that we experience each and every year, where young people in South Africa, they write matric, they pass, but they don't go to university or TVET colleges, not because they are stupid, but because this government has not planned for them. We're simply saying, let us plan for the young people who are going to come next year. In 2024, 218,000. I must appreciate RISE, ATM, and members of parliament in MK, and they are quite right. We're simply speaking about the past 2 years, and already that is sitting at almost 500,000 young people who are not able to find space in post-secondary education. But for the past 30 years, this problem has been persistent. That is why we have this category called NEET. Because if this department, if this minister who does not even know the difference between a commission of inquiry and a parliamentary inquiry and ad hoc, if he was doing his job, then we're not going to have NEET in South Africa. What is an NEET? An NEET is a young person who is not in employment, not in education and training. Over 4 million of them are there in South Africa. But you've got a minister who says, we know what the problem is. If you know what the problem is, why is it not being resolved? Because the ANC didn't enter government yesterday. The ANC didn't enter government in 2024. The ANC has been in government since 1994. So why do you say to us, we know what the problem is? In fact, it's an insult because it means you know what the problem, but you don't want to resolve it and fix it. I don't know why you speak about CETs, because I was sitting in the meeting with you, Minister, and the DTG of CET colleges was very clear that primarily, in fact, she even gave us a percentage. She said 78% of the people who are in CET colleges are people who are still pursuing matric. She even called it, she said it's adult education. So how can you count a CET college? Because we're talking about young people that have already passed matric. So you are saying they must write matric, pass matric, and then go and pursue matric again in the CET college. It's the highest level of dishonesty. It's the highest level of an insult and insensitivity to the struggle that is experienced by majority young people in this country. I don't know why you're talking about lecture recruitment, because you have got thousands and thousands of vacancies in the TVET colleges, in the universities, in the university councils, in the principals. You have got so many acting principals. You are telling us about recruitment. You are failing to even fill the vacancies which are currently there now. I don't know why you talk about infrastructure development, because your department, 300 million rands had to be repurposed to DECO because your department is not spending its infrastructure budget. So what are you talking about? You can't even give us a site. We asked you a simple question. The president keeps saying we're going to build a university in Ekurhuleni. Can you give us a site? We're not saying show us the foundation and everything. We're just saying, at least as a minister, you ought to have an idea that we're going to build this university around this particular area. We're saying, give us the site where you're going to build this university. You cannot even give us that site. But you want to come before this parliament and insult all those young people who will be sitting at home, who will not be able to go to post-secondary education because you have failed to plan for them. The EFF is not calling for a commission of inquiry. The EFF is not calling for an ad hoc committee. We are calling for a parliamentary inquiry, which has been done before, because if you are a reading minister, you will know that it was done to resolve the issues of ESCOM. I think it was the Public Enterprise Portfolio Committee in Parliament. No additional costs were incurred. So I don't know why you're talking about cuts. We are working within the frameworks of Parliament.
Honorable Lonzi.
So I don't know why it's shameful that the ANC doesn't want to take these problems seriously. Because next year we're going to have students being turned behind because there are not enough spaces. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Lonzi, your time has expired, man.
Manamela must fall. Thank you, President.
No, honorable
Thank you,
members.
President.
No, honorable members. Let us conclude the debate. Please. Honorable members, that concludes the debate of this motion. And I will remind honorable members that a decision of this motion will be taken in a full plenary session of the Assembly. That concludes the business of the virtual mini plenary session, and the mini plenary will now rise. Thank you, honorable members.